Chevron last week came forward and announced that it will buy Anadarko Petroleum in a $33 billion deal. And this is the biggest in international affairs, even the biggest deal since 3 years in oil and gas. And Anadarko, of course, has a portfolio in oil and gas, but the most important thing is their acreage in the Permian Basin, which is part of America's shale revolution. In effect, the most productive basin right now. And so, to me, that's a very positive sign that the investment in unconventional oil and gas in America is going to continue. So, bigger players are now investing and sort of sucking up the smaller players that have been in the experimental phase of fracking and horizontal drilling in the last decade. And I think that's a good sign. That's a positive thing. It makes a lot of sense because larger oil and gas developers, of course, have economies of scale and synergies, and they have better access to pipeline infrastructure and so on. So that makes a lot of sense. It might even put downward pressure on the cost, and this will solidify America's oil and gas production for decades. And one of the remaining questions to me, and that's a very sad thing, is that so much of this now depends on politics. So who will win the next election? What will be the next policy? Like the Green New Deal that we talked about, and so on. And this is really the major threat. So the problem with oil and gas is not like will we run out of it, or how much is there, or can we access it? It's actually which politicians will sit in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, that is, I don't know what to add to that. That is definitely the case. And I mean, the more and more we have this idea that power should be concentrated in the state, and then that's the default, then you just have this phenomenon where so much of progress depends on is the person in government now okay with you doing what you think is best. And then so you can't just think about what you think is best and what's ethical. You have to think about what does today's statist politician think, and then what will tomorrow's think, and what are their chances of getting elected. And it's again a case where the industries that are hurt most by this are the industries in the future. So with nuclear has had the misfortune of coming into existence really with the modern environmental movement. And so much of the nuclear industry's existence has just been how to deal with the fact that government is super hostile. And thus, even if you have the greatest idea in the world, you probably won't be allowed to do it, or at least won't be allowed to do it with the speed that would make you a good investment. And the destruction that occurs there is just impossible to calculate, but it is massive.